It's weird. Hold on. It should recognize it. It should recognize that. Why is it not recognizing it? There it goes. There it goes.
All right.
All right, man. Bill Owen, I just on Twitter gave you my name. Bill Owen, BILLOWEN.
All right.
Let's see. You got it.
Great. Sorry, this is my first time interviewing somebody on my channel, so I apologize if it's unconventional.
Oh, that's all right. I've been a guinea pig to many, many, many things.
Well,
yeah.
So typically we just do tech stuff here, but I like to do different things that are just not conventional. And I know that you do a lot of custom parts, which is not conventional. And I figured I'd give you a little video here dedicated to you because I won that one giveaway that you did and absolutely love the work that you do. So
I haven't done a giveaway forever. That's which you're probably one of the last people to get something from me.
It was a little over a year ago. So
yeah, I haven't needed to do them anymore. There's been no need for them because, you know, giveaways are just a vehicle for marketing, and I haven't had to do it. I mean, it's nice to, I mean, by all means, if you're doing well, to do a giveaway just for fun, but I use them for you know, as a marketing tool.
Yeah, giveaways do tend to draw a lot of attention, some not so great attention and some really good ones. So I guess some of my big questions that I have for you were, what got you started in this line of work? I mean, what drove you into this to make you want to do this for a living?
I've always loved electronics and computers, but I was never a geek though. I was always more of a car guy, and that's where I learned a lot of my fabrication skills from cars, restoring old cars, customizing cars, any type of car, American, foreign car. I love all cars. And what happened was, I think it was either 2000, I think it was, yeah, the year 2000. A friend of mine wanted me to build a computer that was a tribute to his car he used to have. And I said, oh yeah, that'd be really fun. And we could incorporate things from the car into it. We could have your door handle on the top for carrying the case, and we could have one of the gauges from the center console in it, like a volt gauge. Then I use like the headlight switch to turn on a light inside of it. Then we use the actual factory color, tornado red, and there's some other little aspects like the weave and like the like even before like cable management was a big deal. I used some type of sleeving on the wires and stuff like that. And then I shared the results on this website called pimprig.com at the time. And some of the stuff that I incorporated into the build, people asked, hey, where'd you get that? Where'd you get that? And so I started pointing people to these sources and stuff. And having a car background, I kind of knew where to get these materials. Then it dawned on me that I could actually sell this stuff. I could just find a wholesale source and then turn around and sell to these people to make extra money. And that's what I did. The first thing was mesh, Modder's mesh. Somebody actually called it Modder's mesh, but it was just a perforated steel that I was using to make intake grills on bezels and stuff like that. Because back then, you know, early 2000s cases, I mean, because overclock, it was all about overclocking back in and getting rid of heat. There's all these cooling modifications back then, adding fans, adding bigger fans. Where, you know, where can we add more fans? Well, and then all those old full towers and beige towers that we had back then, they weren't really designed well for ventilation in the front and in the bezel. So I cut a big hole and then put mesh in there, and people are like, hey, where'd you get that? I want to do that too. And so it just took off. And then I had open ears to what people wanted for other ideas and things. And if it required me actually making it, or if I didn't have the resources to make it, I would find somebody, and then I'd hire them to make the part, and then I just flip it. So yeah, it was just like very basic, simple stuff, part-time income. And it just grew and grew and grew until I've got like a team now of like a full-time machinist that works in the machine shop. And then I've got two different 3D engineer guys that will draw things out. I'll come up with an idea or send a reference of something to them, like, hey, let's take this, but let's make it better or whatever, and draw it up. Because I don't have time to sit in front of a computer drawing up stuff. Sometimes I do. I'll oversee designs that are in progress, and I'll give them the okay in that. But I don't sit in front of a computer screen. I don't have the time.
No, it's understandable. Actually, that actually answered a couple of other questions that I had further into the Word document that I have for this call. But I do have another question for you. I guess two questions. One is, where did the name MNPCTech come from? I mean,
yeah, it's an acronym for Minnesota Personal Computer Technician.
Okay.
Because I was working a full-time job at this corporation, the Toro Company. They make snow throwers and lawnmowers because their headquarters is here in Minnesota. And it's just a a crappy dead-end job that I was working there. And so while I was going to work there, I went to night school to get my A+ and N+ certifications, so I could ultimately work, at a place that builds computers or does tech support or whatever. I just wanted to get out of my doldrum job I was in. And so I went to night school. And then, so when I first started my business part-time, I'm like, well, PC technician, and so MN for Minnesota. And so that's how I came up with the name. I thought it, at the time it seemed, it was localized for Minnesota and stuff like that. Most people don't know what it means. But what's funny, and often there was times throughout the years I thought about changing the name. Like, it is really, people like that, I don't get. I see PC tech and okay, I get that. Okay. I debated about changing the name, but then what happened was it just developed its own brand, and because it is unique. So I thought, just leave it alone. It's working, People see it, and the people that know it, a lot of people know it. And for the longest time, no one would ever get the acronym right when they'd say it, or and then, but over time now, I started officially in 2001. Now today, when people mention it, they know exactly what they're talking about. So, obviously I've done things well,
Oh, definitely. I mean, as far as modded parts go, every time I think about something, I look at what you have first, and then I go from there. So, I mean, you do amazing work, by the way. Like I said, the one part's the only one that I've purchased from you or gotten from you directly, but I definitely have plans in the future that if things work out, I definitely plan on coming to you. And I highly recommend your stuff to anybody that asks. So I
appreciate it, Brian.
I appreciate the work that you do. It's amazing. The
Made in America, buddy. Made in the USA. How no one else. I mean, there's a lot of independent like PC modder guys with their own little businesses. A lot of guys that are working like mostly through word of mouth that are making stuff in their garage, and that's the thing is that, but once in a while I'll run into people online that I knew back in the day when I was just modding, and they'd be like, "Oh, you're still around, man? Yeah, you're still doing this stuff?" Well, yeah, because the reason being is that, the PC hardware industry, it's all made in China. All of our equipment and hardware is all made in China. And a lot of the stuff that I create caters to PC cases, modifications that you would add to your PC case that otherwise, or upgrades that the factory didn't do, or when they did it, it wasn't very good. It wasn't, good quality. So if you've got a case that's like very successful sales-wise case, like say like they're selling 50 to 75,000 a year, and a good PC case design can last like 5 years, 6 years. But if there was like one thing they didn't really get right on it, like say like it's the window or something that people wanted, but the manufacturer decided for some reason to skip out on to keep the price lower, I may come up with that thing that people want. They come to me, hey, will you do this? Next, you know, I'm making this part for this specific case. A good example is the Corsair C70 Vengeance case, which looks like a military ammo box. And Corsair stopped making it several years ago. I don't know exactly when, but it was a long time ago. But to this day, in 2021, people still buy our custom replacement window for the C70 because the original window had these really ugly perforated holes for 2 fans on there. And it's a window. People when they get a case for a window, they want to see their hardware, they want to see their video card, especially today if everything illuminated. And if you've got 2 fans, you know, mount 2 fans there, it's blocking your view at your hardware. So it was a really dumb idea on Corsair's part to design it that way. And even if you don't mount fans there, the perforated holes is very distracting. So what we did is just come up with a plain window to replace that. And to this day, Brian, people are still buying these windows even though the case has been discontinued. So it's just one of those things when, you know, that's that little niche that we fill.
Yeah. So I know that you said you've got a car background and that's where your first design came from, but where do you generally get your inspiration from? Is it like just ideas that pop into your head, or do you have some process that you go through for it?
Well, mostly the stuff that I do today, or I bet, well, for the last few years, that pays the bills. When I do a custom build for like a client, usually they come to me, you know, with the topic or the genre that they want to cover, whether it be, you know, it's usually lately it's been games, because, you know, I do a new build to promote a game release. If I have the time to do my own build, which is very rare now, I don't really have time to do my own stuff anymore. But the type of stuff that I will do for my own self is usually inspired by movies, like science fiction movies. I started a Mad Max Road Warrior build about 2 years ago. And what happens when you have a business that does this stuff, you never have time for your own thing. So when there was a gap, a lull, I started this build. I did a scale V8 engine, same as the pursuit car from the Road Warrior movie, the Falcon XB, all right, Ford V8, same exact blower from Mad Max's car. I did everything at scale. I went as far as this engine, the front pulleys for the supercharger, everything works on it. So you could turn it on and see it spool up. And this was going to protrude from the top of the chassis, and then I was going to do some type of cowling on the back to echo the Falcon XB, his car. So that's the kind of stuff that I get off on, like those movies that I saw as a kid that to this day I still love. What is another thing I've done? Well, one, like a dream project would be Planet of the Apes, the original series, the first 3-4 movies, the original movies from, and then if I was going to do my own build, and then Escape from New York, the Kurt Russell original movie,
Great movie.
as a PC theme mod,
Nice.
That kind of stuff's fucking awesome, man. That's, if you watch John Carpenter's Escape from New York again, and you watch how the movie is filmed, it's like a living comic book. The way the cinematography, the shots are done, look at it as like a comic book. or next time you see it. And that's what I love about it. It just, every shot just has a mood about it, like right away. And you don't see that in movies anymore. So, you know, that's the kind of stuff I would do for myself, is inspired by movies. Or Alien. I did an H.R. Giger, the original Alien movie. I did an H.R. Giger's theme. They kind of have a xenomorph kind of thing going on at the front.
Nice.
Yeah.
Both of those are great movies. I love The Escape from New York.
Yeah.
I actually like it better than Escape from LA.
Oh yeah, that one is a bomb. Yeah, it's hard to watch that one.
I think they did better graphics as far as like the higher end graphics for it, but the storyline just wasn't nearly as good. And I agree with you. The first one, if you look at it in the right light, it's an amazing movie.
Mm-hmm.
Although the makeup artist that did that snake on his torso just did not know how to make a snake.
No. And the thing about John Carpenter, like you look at Halloween, all right? John Carpenter, one of his most famous movies with Jamie Lee Curtis. The lighting, you watch, he's an artist with how he lights a room. And that was not really happening before him. He created that genre of setting a mood in a very low lit room, which is very, very hard to film. When you even with your phone, you try to do anything in a low lit video, it's very hard. So there's an art to it. And that's what I love about his movies. And The Thing, I was just going to say, The Thing is another great movie, another Kurt Russell by John Carpenter. That'd be also a great theme to do. But you know, the thing about The Thing is there's so much gore in it that I don't want it to just be make it a gore mod. I'd have to come up with some other element of it to capture that mood or feeling without having the nasty gore element to it, you know?
Yeah, I know that I actually had sent you a message and you said that you'd talk to me about it at another time. One of the things that I want to do, and I have next to no skill when it comes to case mods themselves, is I want to do a Johnny Mnemonic build.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Keanu Reeves is a pretty decent actor overall,
Mm-hmm.
and that film led into ones like The Matrix, and I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I love that post-apocalyptic feel that you get from it, even though it's not so much post-apocalyptic as it is just corporations run everything, so
Mm-hmm.
everybody's in the slums. But you get that same feel that you get from those post-apocalyptic movies,
Mm-hmm.
but you get it with a tech twist, and you don't see
Yeah.
that very often anymore.
No. Well, that's like a Cyberpunk movie too. And now if I'm not mistaken, because I haven't seen that movie in a long time, it was a Japanese director, if I'm not mistaken, that did that movie.
I would have to double check, but I believe so. It was heavily influenced by Japanese culture altogether.
Yeah.
I mean, if you ever played on game consoles in like the 80s and 90s, there was a game on the Sega Genesis called Shadowrun.
I remember the name, yeah.
You can actually get it for the new Sega Genesis mini unit that I think I did a video on. But back in early 90s, late 80s, it was essentially the same premise with some mutation twists to it, more than just tech, but it had the same feel to it that like Johnny Mnemonic had, parts of The Matrix, that kind of stuff. You can see an influence coming from that game into the genre and influencing stuff. And Johnny Mnemonic, it had a lot of similarity with the style of film that it was to the game, as far as like the areas being slums for where you'd go to get your stuff, and you know, just that kind of feel to it. And so I enjoyed that game, but the enjoyment that I got from that game gave me the enjoyment that I got from the movie. And that movie has been something that stuck with me over the now decades. And so I just, for myself, I thought it'd be kind of cool to do a theme build and do something around that. And he actually is in, he does one of the voices in Cyberpunk, if I remember right.
Yeah, he's a character in it. Yeah, I can't remember. And his name is Johnny. Isn't it Johnny in the Cyberpunk game?
I think so.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like, I think it's supposed to be a rebuilding of the franchise. Like
Like a callback.
yeah,
Callback.
exactly. So
Sure. Yeah.
it's kind of cool.
All
And
right.
that's one of the things that I want to do. But like I said, I have no skill when it comes to modding. The only mods that I've ever done to a case so far is basically, I watched a YouTube video from another YouTuber, and I don't remember his name, but he does almost nothing but Optiplex builds, where you buy a Dell Optiplex.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's pretty popular. I just can't remember his
Mhm.
name, but he showed in a couple of his videos how to take out the drive cage so that you could put in like a cooling fan in the front and just mount the drives to other places. And so I did a similar thing where I used a drill and I took out the drive cage and put a fan in the front and put the drives along other spots. And so that's the most complicated thing I've ever done.
Mhm.
But I see a vision in my head, and then I look at my skills and I go, no, just not going to happen.
Yeah, there is an art to translating what you see visually into the physical. There's an art to that. And when I do these PC builds that are themed after or echo the world of a game, the goal is to grab visual elements from that world. So the fans or the players, when they see that PC build, instantly, oh, I recognize that that's Fallout. Oh, I can tell right away that that is Borderlands. That's the key, is that you have to spot those visual cues and then, you know, transform them into the physical in some way on a case, a box. It's really just a box.
Yeah.
And do it in some like eloquent way that, you know, oh, people instantly recognize, you know, it's yeah, there's an art form to it, and I love doing that. It's like I find the challenge. There's a challenge in that, and in some ways, I've become old school because you don't see really people modding PC cases like they used to a decade ago. You know, it's like, well, I'm 52, so a lot of guys don't even, my age that were into it, don't even do it anymore. And then what everybody wants today is basically a glass aquarium of RGB for your hardware. That's what they are. It's just a glass box. And everyone can do that. All the recipes are in every store online to make your glass box look like everybody else, you know, like a Christmas tree in a box. And there's nothing wrong with that, but to me, that's not being creative. I mean, you're a builder, you're not a modder, you know, when you see that.
I agree wholeheartedly. And I think that the biggest issue is that the reason that more people don't do it is because back then we had to do it. If we wanted something different, it had to be modified.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nowadays, you might be trading one thing for another, but you can find something that gives you a general feel of what you're looking for and that's acceptable for what you're doing. But you don't find it without going to somebody like you. You don't find the exact item that you're looking for to give you that exact feel that makes you think this is my unique piece. You know, an example is my desktop. It looks different than a lot of people's, but it's just a different configuration of the NZXT H510i. All I did was I did a vertical mounted GPU instead of the normal with a water cooler, you know, an AIO, and I put RGB in it, but it's not my custom case. It's my custom built machine in a generic case, you know, and that's why that idea of, and I mean, it's been in the makings now for 20 years plus, because I mean, that movie came out back in, I want to say somewhere in the 90s, like 94, 96 range. And nowadays there's the ability to get stuff customized from somebody like yourself. And I saw your posts, and I've been following you for a while, and we went through a move, so I couldn't do it back then. Now things are starting to settle down again. I'm like, I've got that itch again, but I myself don't have that skill set. And I mean, I give you credit. You are amazing, and that skill is definitely a skill set that not enough people have. So that was why I reached out to you about that particular item.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I had this conversation with somebody else recently. The thing is, the art of just picking up tools and cutting and chopping and grinding and engraving and is getting lost. It's being killed by the smartphone, being killed by the internet. You know, my father had like a tool arsenal in the garage, and there would be many people on our block that had tools in their garage to fix stuff, to either try to fix the car, try to fix an appliance, try to fix something, versus paying somebody to do it. You know, fathers were trying to be more DIY. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't DIYers today, but the art of DIY is getting lost. You know, like my son is 16 and he's never had any interest to take apart anything or fix anything, because it's disposable. It's disposable world now. You know, you can just order something new and cheap on Amazon. You know, so I'm kind of like, I am a reflection of an era, you know. And somebody, when I was talking to somebody about this, like, well, yeah, Bill, you're like, it's old school, but it's also, it's like it's an art form now. You know, it's you know, crafting things. I mean, not to say that there isn't a lot of people that do it, but there's not a people like there used to be, Brian, like there used to be, man. So, you know.
I mean, you mentioned that you're 52. I'm 41, so I'm not far behind you. And I remember back in my youth, you know, things were completely different than they are now. So I totally understand what you're getting at. You know, my brother, who's 8 years older than me, he went out and got a car that he liked. He fixed it up. He made the changes that he wanted to it and customized it. And you don't see it as often nowadays. Somebody would rather just take a car, and they'd rather go out and buy a car either already made and ready to go, or they'd rather take it to a shop and have them, you know, put different wheels on or different brakes or things like that. And the way that I associate you with the PC world is kind of like, I don't know if you've seen it on Netflix. I want to say it's Rust to Riches or something like that. It's the one with Gotham Garage in California.
I've heard of it, but there's been a lot of shows like that, you know, Monster Garage is the original.
Huh.
And
I don't think I've actually seen that. Like, I've seen it on
oh,
Netflix, but I've never watched it.
All right, Monster Garage. You can find episodes on, well, if you have Amazon Prime, there's some, in fact, Jesse just launched a new season, January 4th. And Monster Garage was the original recipe of taking something and you watch it get converted to something else. And he was doing it more in a, like a crazy Hot Wheels kind of thing. Like, let's take this hot dog cart and make it into a dragster, or let's take this cop car and make it into a a mobile donut shop. The cop car makes donuts and shit like that. It was really, really some crazy cool stuff came out of that as a kid, and you don't have to be a kid to enjoy it, but just it has that kid element of like, this is fun. Like what you would do if you were going to Frankenstein your toys and like change your toys around, like let's combine this and let's see if it, you know, and so yeah, it was really cool. But that spawned all these shows that, you know, became like these reality based shows. Like, and then, you know, after that, the American Chopper came out.
Yeah.
All those shows, you know, like Chip Foose's show, all those shows where we take something and we do this, and then we're like, there's some type of goal with it. We try to make money from it or whatever. So yeah, I was following all those different shows, and I'd heard about the one that you're mentioning, but I'm sure I know the recipe of what it is.
Yeah. I've seen a couple of different series, and his makes me enjoy it because I see the creativity, the
Mhm.
artistic side. I myself am extremely logical, very limited creativity wise. Like I can envision something,
Mhm.
but putting it into a physical form is not in my skill set. And so when I see somebody that can do that kind of stuff, I love it. You know, somebody like yourself or this other group the name of the shop is Gotham Garage, and
Mhm.
he does a lot of things similar to what you do. You know, they design in house, they custom build the parts right down to the little plates and things, and they customize everything just like you do. And I think that's why I like your work so much, is that I see not just the technical side, but I see the artistic side of it too, and it makes me feel that touch of mixture of both nostalgia, pride, and just a desire to want the parts that you make. And so I don't know, like I said, I really like your work, and so that's why I wanted to do this video. So
Sure, man. You know, a lot of people that, you know, the skill set that you're describing, um, it came from a lot of not having the money, you know, not having the money to have the things that you want. So like, what's next best thing is like, what can I afford? What can I do to make it or modify something that exists, like to modify it, you know? So when you're just constantly tinkering and experimenting and changing things uh, over years, you know, you develop a skill set, and then suddenly, you know, your brain becomes a library of like, oh, if I want to do that, I know I need to take all these steps. I may need to CNC machine this, or I may need to have it laser cut, or I may need to fabricate it by hand. I may need to sculpt it, or like what makes the most sense to make money from. Because if it's going to be CNC milled, that requires drawing time. Someone's got to draw it up, and then we got to, you know, make a fixture so the piece is held in the mill, and that takes time. Time is money. Maybe it's just better if I actually sculpted that by hand, depending on what it is, or maybe outsourced to somebody else, or 3D print it, you know. And the thing is about 3D printing, I just started getting into 3D printing last year. This is a fact about 3D printing. The 3D people that are 3D printing hobbyists will always, well, they want to argue with me on this, but they don't realize that when you try to apply 3D printing to a business, depending on how expensive a 3D printer you own, there's a lot of variables with 3D printing. It's not 100% guaranteed to always give the best results. And often what happens is something can happen while you're printing a large piece that you lose a bunch of time over. Like, for example, I had some different pieces. Well, I was actually, the Outer Worlds build right here.
oh,
This incorporated, like, there's this, in the game, there's this starship called the Unreliable, and we wanted to incorporate it into this. And to mill these parts would have taken hours upon hours, and also be very expensive. And you'd have to get, like, when you mill something, you have to start with a piece of aluminum that's a block or whatever, for whatever what you want to do. And some of these pieces on here would have just required too much work. So 3D printing was a better alternative. However, what can happen with 3D printing, unbeknownst to you, is that it can goof up in the middle of a print. And, you know, and if it does that, then you have to start over again. Well, then you may have lost a day, you know. So my point is about 3D printing. If you're a hobbyist and you love tinkering all the time, and you can sit and babysit the thing while it's printing, hey, that's great. And those kind of guys will argue and say, hey, it's still the best and everything. But for me, as a business, I don't have that time to tinker. I need to have this done. It's got to be foolproof, you know, otherwise I'm now wasting money and I'm losing time on it. So, you know, that's the thing about 3D printing I've learned, and I'm frustrated with it. And I try to use it as a last resort, depending on, again, on what we need to make. If something's really complex, 3D printing will make more sense versus milling, just because you can do such more complex and sophisticated pieces with a 3D printer over milling. The thing is about milling is if you make something that's 3D, like this piece up here or whatever, the mill will only do one side at a time. So you do one side, you finish it, then you got to turn it. You got to manually go into the mill, undo everything in the fixture, turn the piece. You got to turn it. That requires now someone interacting, their time involved with it. Where a 3D printer will take, it will make that from, it will, you know, start all the way from the bottom and just make that whole piece. It will make that whole piece, all the crevices, all the holes in it, all the stuff in it. That's the benefit of a 3D printer. However, if something happens for some reason, the room temperature wasn't right at that moment, or there's just so many variables involved, it could just stop and ruin the whole project, and you don't learn about this until, you know, the next day you come in your shop, and then what the hell caused this? Now we have to now investigate what happened with it. So when it comes to 3D printing, you have to drop at least 80 grand or more to get like a real professional consumer grade level 3D printer that's had all the bugs worked out, and also you've got backup support for it too if anything goes wrong, just to make it worth your while in a business environment, you know. But as an alternative to that, Brian, you can outsource somebody that will put up with all those headaches that has 3D printers, and you'll never even hear about the headaches. They'll deal with it, you know. That's an option too. So
Oh, definitely. I actually own multiple 3D printers ranging from the regular i3 style that.
Oh, the Prusa.
It's not Prusa brand on the ones that I own, but I have the style. And then I've got some stuff from like XYZ, Mono.
Oh, they're great.
Oh, yeah.
Those guys are awesome.
Yeah. And I've even got one from, I guess from what I've seen on YouTube, the brand's pronounced Cheedy, but it's spelled Kidi, Qidi.
Oh,
yeah, it's a Chinese company, obviously, but it's a weird pronunciation of the letters. And I love it's a resin printer on that specific one, and I love the quality that it gives out. But like you said, there are headaches to it. You gotta take the time to tune it right. You gotta make sure things are smooth. You got to make sure it's in a stable environment. I've got it out in the garage right now, and I live in southern Utah as opposed to in Minnesota. But here, the winters are just as cold, if not colder.
Yes.
Our average temperature here is like under 30 degrees right now. So, so it gets cold. You know, it gets into the teens all the time. Sometimes it'll even hit below zero. So snows frequently here, and my garage is not heated. So
oh yeah, you can't. Yeah.
So
no, they're a pain in the ass, man. I mean, they're one of the greatest innovations ever in our lifetime for what they can do. But people don't realize that they need to be babysat. You just, you know, unless you're gonna drop some serious freaking money on one, you know, like the Make, what is it? Is it Make XYZ? Oh yeah, MakerBot, but it's their it's like their full enclosed cabinet ones. They'll do carbon fiber too. I don't remember what the name is.
I know Formlabs has a pretty expensive machine like that.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
I mean, they start out at like $10,000, and that doesn't include any kind of contract for maintenance and supplies and stuff. So yeah, I actually wanted to get one of those, and then I saw the price tag and saw my budget, and I'm like, no, not in the budget.
And it's a lot of money. It's a really, and as a business, if you're not utilizing that equipment, it's a waste of money, you know. Other than it's a write-off for your business, that expenditure, it's a write-off, but in the long run, if you're not using it, it was a waste, you know. So
I mean, my resin printer that I was mentioning before, I paid like $180 for it, and it does what I need it for because I print miniatures on it, you know. I don't really do anything business with it, and don't need it to be up 24/7 and be as dependable as like you would need. And it makes sense that you'd have at least some items that you'd outsource like that. Do you outsource much, or is it just as little as possible?
It depends on what it is. A lot of times if I outsource, it's because I'm up against a time schedule that's really pushing. I know that in-house I'm not going to be able to do it because we're so small. We have to like constantly schedule like what's in the mill being made in the mill. So if it's a project that has many different types of things, I may outsource it. Yeah, it all depends on the project and what's going on at the time, you know. Yeah, and the thing is, every project that I do is different from the last.
And that
Always.
makes sense.
Yeah. You know, and I like it that way because it's always a new challenge that way. Yeah. I got some. There's lots of, you know, this year's going to be interesting to see what happens. I mean, there's a lot of. I've talked to a lot of interested clients and having some stuff done, and it's all a matter of them just pulling the trigger on it eventually. But it's going to be definitely, I think it's going to be a year that I have to make a decision to expand myself, expand my shop, just to answer the demand because of COVID. You know, the industry, you know, the gaming industry and the hardware industry is done really well. You know, people are isolating in quarantine. And so what are they doing? They're playing games or they're building PCs, which is also a reflection of why you can't get any video cards anywhere, is everyone's bottom up because they're a captive consumer right now.
Yeah.
And, but I wasn't prepared for the stress that it would put on our store for the stuff that we make. You know, we're like overwhelmed with making commitments of making stuff, which is great. You know, there's nothing to complain about, but we weren't expecting it though. And so it really, it pushes you, it exhausts you really. It just, the answering of everything. I mean, it's great, but I guess you call it growing pains, you know.
And it pleases me to hear that you're doing well. And I was actually going to ask how COVID has impacted. So I actually answered one of my questions, but it's been crazy for everybody. It really has. I mean, there's more virtual stuff now than ever before because of it. I mean, like this call, for instance. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, it's pushed our culture into more digital resources and tools, which is a good thing. As geeks, I'm totally down with that. If it forces people to learn technology, yeah, it's great. You know, and you know, when you think about it, I mean, we've got a world of content at our fingertips that's you know, you can't get bored with possibly. I mean, anything you want to watch, right? You know.
Yeah, definitely. You'd mentioned earlier that you had people that did the design work because you don't generally have the time to do it. Is that something that you do in-house though, with employees of your own?
Yeah, I have 2 different 3D guys, and they're contracted through me. They're not employees on a payroll because the design work it's up and down. It's not every day. So I have a couple of guys I've worked with for like the last decade, and we've gotten, you know, it's like being in a band with another musician, and like they know what I like, I know what they can do, and then we work together. And that's why I worked together with them for so long, is that you know, I'm the idea guy. I can give you ideas all day long, but I need to have somebody capture those and then take them and make them into the physical, you know. Now, I built my business doing everything by hand, but I just, like I was saying earlier, I don't have time anymore to do all that stuff like I used to. So I actually, when we take on commission builds, doing custom PCs for promoting things, I try to limit it, because if we take on too much, then we won't be able to turn it around, you know. So I usually tell a client 3 months, give me 3 months. Give me at least 3 months. Give me 3 months notice, all right, before you need it. So I can make it and I can balance it with whatever else is going on, you know, otherwise you get overwhelmed. And see, you know, I've watched other businesses where they take on too much because of that money, like, oh yeah, that money coming in. But when you don't deliver or you're late and you start coming up with excuses, you've lost the client. They're not, if it's a large company, they're never going to come to you again because there's 10 other guys that can do that. They'll go to them, they'll find them. They're like, this guy didn't deliver. We had to. And the thing is, when it comes to game releases, sometimes, as you know, they'll push releases out because you need to further develop the game. Sometimes they'll push them, they'll change them and make them earlier than they planned for some reason. And it's all about the money. Yeah. Like, oh, well, we can't launch on that date because this other game that's similar to ours is on that same week. And we want to do it, we want to coincide it with this big event that's happening. So if you can't adjust to that, then they're not going to come back to you. They'll be like, I don't have the time to deal with your problems. I'm paying you, or I paid you to deliver. You know, it's like any business, you know, it's just like those shows. And that's why I survive, is because I don't take on more than I know that we can handle. You know, it's tempting. It really is. Get that check, but.
No, I totally understand, and I agree with you. In fact, using that type of example, Cyberpunk 2077 is a prime example that it got released too early. It should have been held back later, but they wanted to push it out so that they could get it out for Christmas and get that Christmas spending going. And nobody can play it on a console at all. And on the PC, it requires such advanced hardware, nobody can buy it because it's being bought up left and right. And so,
well, the thing is with the CD Projekt Red, just imagine the amount of politics that were going on internally of that company, because they had created so many business relationships and backdoor deals with people and they also succumbed to the pressure of the gaming community, which was really stupid. And they did that because they're new. All they wanted to do is please. We just want to please you. And the thing is you don't listen to the gaming community because they'll forget about it. You just ignore them and they'll forget about it. They'll, you know what I mean? They have a short attention span. So if CD Projekt Red had pushed it out even further another few months, and of course they wouldn't because there was too much financially riding on it, everyone would have forgave them. They would have forgave them for it, you know, because they wanted that game so bad. But I think just because they never really knew how to deal with that before, they have that global demand, that this has been a huge lesson for them, that we'll see if they really learn from it. And if they can fix all the glitches within the next 6 months, or I don't know, maybe less, people will forget about all this anger that they had about it, you know.
I agree wholeheartedly. If they'd held back a little bit longer to fix at least some of the bugs, gotten it to actually work on some of the consoles, you know, it would have improved things and they wouldn't have had such a major problem. But like you were saying, business wise, they have investors that they had to meet quotas and demands on. And that's, you know, like you said, taking too big of a bite, you know, just because you see that paycheck and you want it so badly that you're okay, I'll do it. And then things happen that shouldn't happen. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just an example of what we were talking about. So out of curiosity, what is the hardest build that you've ever done? Like the hardest piece that you've ever done that you feel was the most complicated and difficult?
Hearing you say that, I hate small builds. I personally hate ITX builds because I got big hands, and I hate trying to like there. And I know, you know, I totally understand the small form factor enthusiast guys, and what they do is super, super innovative. I mean, they're pushing the limits and getting the smallest things. And I really appreciate that as an art. personally, I can't stand it. I can't stand having to cram into little spaces and stuff like that. But I was just thinking, I think it was, what year was it? I don't remember what year it was. It was, we did this thing for NVIDIA. It was a contest. It was a contest to create a their NVIDIA Ion, which was an ITX all-in-one motherboard. It had the embedded HD graphics embedded, and it was an Intel processor. I don't even remember what size processor it was, but this was like maybe 2008 or something, or maybe an early, I don't remember, Brian. But anyways, this thing, it was really crazy looking. It's this cube, and you can look at it in the Google Images, MNPCTech, NVIDIA cube, Ion cube, and it was like a sculpture, like a futuristic alien sculpture thing, but it was really small. It was a small cube, and I just remember like, it was like it assembled together like a puzzle, like puzzle pieces. And I just remember, just whenever I had to take it and open it up to deal with something, it was just a pain in the ass. I just hated it. And to a point, this thing too is sort of like that. It kind of goes together like a puzzle. And what happens is, you know, it's so, okay, it all depends. Like when I did this, okay, so this was for the Outer Worlds. So let me turn it on right here. So, this nice. This was a this is actually a case mod. Wasn't built from scratch, and that's what's crazy about it. It was a case mod, and the core inside this is a Silverstone LD03 or LD01. Anyways, it's an ITX chassis tower, very, very unique vertical tower design. Yeah. And so what we did is we created a shell for it. It's encased in a shell. And, you know, it made more sense to create a case mod versus doing something from total scratch. Because when you build a PC from scratch, what people don't take into account is, like, there's a lot of details that you've got to now build from scratch versus if you take an existing retail PC case, the core chassis is there. How the video card, you know, the video card is held, the back IO, everything like that is already, you can already utilize that. So in a way, doing a case mod, you actually save money versus building it all from scratch, where you've got to draw up and create all those individual pieces. Doing a case mod can be a more cost-effective way to do something that looks truly custom, but the cable management in this thing was a nightmare, because the way they designed the original chassis, which was a Silverstone LD03, I believe, there was nowhere to hide all the cables from the power supply. There's no shroud or anything in there. There's no cover for the power supply. So you got all these cables and wires crammed in there. And then you go and you add a bunch of LED lights. There's individual lights for things. Those all require their own cables. So suddenly now you've just got this just bird's nest of wires and cables that got to go in, but you got to make it look good. You just can't throw it in there because somebody's actually going to look in there and see what kind of job you did, you know? So, yeah, you know, I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't get excited about doing anything that's small, or I like big stuff. I mean, I still love a big full tower, but the problem is with big stuff is I got to ship it to somebody. You know, and that drives the expense way up. And then also I got to pack it in a way that it's going to be safe for the journey. Yeah. Turn this off. So, you know, and that's the nice thing about doing smaller builds is it's much easier to ship them to somebody, and you don't have to put them on a skid and then expect them to get a forklift truck to move it around or whatever. yeah, I've done my share of big builds and stuff, but you know, yeah,
Okay.
small stuff.
Out of curiosity, ballpark figure, what does a mod like that run for the customer? I mean,
This would have been like, well, this was actually sponsored. There's a backstory on this. This was actually sponsored by AMD. They sponsored the processor and video card in it. So I didn't have to. Actually, I got those before they were even available. But this was like 2000, like August 2019 is when I originally got the hardware for this. Now, this also is a project I paid for out of my own pocket because I'm a fan of the game, The Outer Worlds, and I love Tim Kaine and Leonard Boyarsky, which they worked on the original Fallout game. And people describe The Outer Worlds as like a Fallout in space type of thing. So it was a passion project, so I paid for it. But if I were to charge for that, probably 12 grand, considering like everything that had to be, you know, created for it. And that would include a system inside of it too.
okay.
12 grand,
Wow.
you know.
Definitely pricey, but I mean, looking at it, it looks amazing. And so I could definitely see somebody willing to do that. I mean, it's outside of my personal budget, but it looks amazing. And if I did have the money, it would definitely be something that I'd be looking at.
12,
But,
yeah, 12 grand is a lot of money. You could get a really nice used car for that much money. You can get like a, you know, like
I was actually about to say the same thing. That's a nice used car.
Get a nice car. You could find a nice Mercedes or BMW for that much money.
Yeah.
That's still decent, you know, and like from like a 2012, 2014 or something like that. But you know, it's all about the hours that go into it. You know, you got multiple hours, and then there's no like guidebook that we follow. Like if we do something custom, it's how I can put this. It's not like it's all done from scratch, and you have to develop it. And like for example, with this, what happened with it. So we've got like these machined aluminum side panels. Like these are, what is it? 1/2 inch thick. This started out as 1/2 inch thick block of aluminum that these panels, and the other panels are 3/16 inch thick aluminum. We had to fine tune how the shell attached to the original chassis and do it in a way that was like, factory, as if it looked like a factory had made it, you know, like and when we first made it, I wasn't happy with the results. It felt like things, because the pieces were so heavy. That's where I was going with this, because the pieces were so heavy. They didn't want to stay firmly together around the chassis, so we had to develop ways to fine tune that. And the thing is, when you first do a drawing in 3D and you're looking at it, you can't anticipate these little problems to happen in the real world until you've actually made the parts. And we knew, if we're okay, when I built this, there was like a video being done of the build of it. It's not out there because COVID killed this whole project. But I wanted to do aluminum versus acrylic because people love seeing machined aluminum, and I wanted to show that in the video, like we use machined aluminum and stuff like that. But we knew that using machined aluminum would add more weight, and because the panels are so heavy, it was hard to make them stay firmly together around the shell. So we had to do some fine tuning. My point is that takes time, and when you do that original quote for a build, you don't often foresee these issues coming up, but you have to somehow come up with a quote that will cover that. You know, like if there's going to be fine tuning or developing things, we need to be paid for our time for that as well. Right. You know, and if you don't, I know there's a lot of, you know, hobbyist modders out there that want to do, you know, custom builds on the sideline, and they do it because they really enjoy it. But are you really could you really make money from it though, as a living? So you have to consider all these things when you do a quote. Is people got to get paid, you know, and make money for our time, you know. So that's why this stuff gets expensive. It's never been done before, and there's going to be some fine tuning. So when it goes to that trade show, or it goes to somebody who wins it, it's not going to fall apart on them, and it's not going to be shabbily put together. And like, we're like, what the hell is this? You know, so that's the way we approach. That's what I would say separates MNPCTech from anybody else doing custom PC builds for clients or PC mods, is that we try to make something that it's structurally strong and it will last, and it's not going to fall apart on you, because once it leaves my hands, I don't want to ever hear about it again. I don't want to, oh yeah, we got it and this is broken. Will you, hey, I need you to, because everything on it is a one-off. So that means we have to make that one-off piece again. And that takes time. So, you know, my point is, make it so it's well made, quality pieces, and it's well built. And people that have seen my work online, and then they finally get a chance to see it at a show, trade show, and they see it up in person, like, holy cow, man, I didn't realize, you know, how much, you know, you actually put into this stuff. It's hard to tell by the videos or pictures, but once I see it in person, it's like, holy cow, yeah, you guys put a lot of work into this, you know.
Well, I mean, just by looking at that Outer Worlds build over camera here, I can already tell that there's a lot of detail in there, but I'm sure, because I've seen stuff before, that I'm certain that, you know, if I were there in person and looking at it, physically able to sit there and touch it and everything, that I'd see even more details than I do over the camera. And the work put into it is just immense. And so I can tell just from looking at it over the camera that it took a lot. So
yeah. And there's some really, really talented PC modders out there. They got the YouTube channels and stuff. I can't stress enough to them that you've got to really, if you're going to do a custom build for somebody, really make sure you get paid your time, that you make what you deserve for your time. And I used to do a lot more mods for manufacturers years ago, and I got away from that. And I'm talking like, what I mean like is like Gigabyte, you know, or Asus, or you know, or Corsair. Corsair has been really good though, because they understand what goes into this stuff. But I've done some mods where they're just like, yeah, we want this done for Computex this year, Bill, and we can give you $1,500.
And you're like, that covers the plane ride.
But it's, you know, but here's the thing, Brian. A lot of people will say, yeah, that's awesome, because I get a chance to build something. It's like, it's an excuse to build something that's going to go to a trade show. And they know that, and they take advantage of those people because of that. And they always will, because there will always be hundreds, if not thousands of people in the world that would love an opportunity to do a custom build where they're sent all the hardware. They get to be in their garage for weeks on end doing something that's going to go to a trade show and be on display, and they're going to mail them a $1,200 or $1,500 check. And there's nothing against that, but from my aspect, I couldn't do that anymore. It's like, no, I'm sorry, you got to pay me more than that. It's not worth my time. You know, so I learned that early on. That's why I'm still thriving today. I'm still doing this because I don't waste my time with them anymore. I got into the gaming industry instead, where they've got millions to get, there's like, their budgets for marketing is insane, you know. So, you know, they're just a better client, higher caliber client to deal with, that understands the cost involved in creating something unique.
Yeah, Mercedes versus Ford, right?
Basically, yeah, or like more handcrafted, something that's handcrafted, you know. Yeah, there's a cost with it, and yeah, but they're getting something truly unique and special. And what's cool is a lot more big companies are starting to recognize that they want to work with the artisan that actually they're crafting something, because that when they share that content on their social media, it gets more engagement because people see, oh, this is actually being built from the ground up and they're putting a lot of work into this, versus just taking stickers or vinyl wrap and putting it around, you know, a retail case and calling it a day kind of a thing.
So I've already taken up a lot of your time. I've got like 3 more questions if you're okay with that.
Go ahead.
The part that I wanted to hear the most about are these last 3 questions. And I guess they're all about you personally and your personal feeling towards stuff. What is the most fun piece that you've ever made?
I have to think about that one, because I have a lot of fun. Fun piece or computer? Or
either or, whatever you found as the most enjoyable, I guess.
I love post-apocalyptic theme stuff. Like I was mentioning Mad Max.
Yeah.
So when I was doing that, when I was working on that Mad Max mod, the greatest thing is when the hours melt away and your mind goes into the zone. You're going down that tunnel vision and you're in something and the hours just melt away. You know that is the best. That's the best. And when I was working on that Mad Max, that was because it was I love this stuff. And that was, yeah. So at some point, because they're going to be working on a new movie, a origin story on Furioso from Fury Road, that's supposed to come out in 2024, something like that. It may be an inspiration or motivation for me to like resurrect that Mad Max project, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe, you know, yeah, it would be fun to get back to that. So yeah, definitely when I was working on the Mad Max one, that was
okay.
fun.
What is the item that you're most proud of, whether it's a build or a specific part or whatever? What's the one thing that you're most proud of having done?
There's a lot of things. Well, I can tell you this. My business, I've started expanding my business into making custom isolation feet for vinyl turntables. And I did this started about 2 years ago. And I know it's not PC related, but because I saw, you know, how the vinyl market was booming, vintage vinyl market was going way up in value. And all these millennials and Gen Zs are buying vinyl, and so they're setting up analog stereo systems. They're getting getting vintage hardware, getting a turntable. These isolation feet that I make help improve the sound of the turntable, or they replace like the old feet on a vintage turntable from the 70s where the rubber's rotted out. I'm now making custom replacement parts for those, and that's probably my most greatest product, is because I feel pride in that, because it's helped my business expand and bring in more revenue. Yeah. And if it brings in more revenue, it gives more opportunity to do passion projects, to fund passion projects like that. So the turntable isolation feet that I started making is probably my greatest achievement.
My wife and I, we love vinyl. We've got the Monkees and the Beatles and Pink Floyd and all the greats. We've got them on vinyl.
Right. What's your turntable?
I can't show it to you, but it's just one of those little ones from like Barnes and Noble. They sell them for like 150.
Or Crosley?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
But what was so disappointing is you brought up millennials, and we used to live in Texas, and there's a store out there that's really popular called Half Price Books.
Oh, we have one here too.
Okay, cool. We went in one day and we had some time between some appointments and picking up the kids from school, and we're like, oh, well, they've got a section of vinyl. We'll go and we'll look and see if they've got any good deals.
Yeah.
It hurt my heart. I'm telling you. We go up to the counter and we're talking, and we ask them for records, and the lady's like, I don't know, this was a year or two ago, and she's 16 to 20 range. She goes, oh, you mean those big round black discs, right? And I'm just like, you mean records? I'm like, it hurt my heart. I told my wife.
Oh my God. Oh, well, you know, Brian, I'll give you hope. I have 2 Gen Z kids. My daughter's 18. My son is 16. Dude, they buy vinyl, and I had no influence on them other than my wife and I played music, always playing music and stuff. But on their own, they decided to buy vinyl. And my daughter just got a $200 Audio-Technica turntable this fall on her own. She bought it on her own, and so there's hope there.
Oh, my oldest is 16 right now, but our 15-year-old, she saw a tape player in our stuff that we had packed away. That was my wife's. When we got together, she had it with her, and she found this when she was like, I don't know, 6 or 8, somewhere in there. And she's like, what's this? And we explained it to her, and she's like, can I have it? And my wife's like, yeah, you can go ahead and have it. I haven't used it in a while. And then for her birthday that year, she's like, Daddy and Mommy, can you get me some cassette tapes so that I can record myself on it? And so we're like, yeah, it'll take us a little bit, but we'll find some for you. And we got some, and she's learning. But the same kid, surprisingly, didn't realize that records, they have the same function as a CD. They play music, but there is a different feeling to it when you play vinyl versus a CD. You can feel the soul of the music.
You're engaging with it.
Exactly. And it resonates throughout your body differently. You know, digital music is great. It's high fidelity and everything, and you can hear the little bits of every sound in it, but it doesn't hit your soul the same way. And I tried explaining that to her, and she doesn't understand it yet, but it's that little difference. It makes a difference when you listen to it, and that it's not a quality of the sound, it's a quality of the music, you know, if that makes any sense.
Somebody described it, it's tactile. It involves your hands. You pull it out, you smell it, you look at the photos on the sleeve, you look at the album art. The album cover itself is art. It's art in itself. Putting it on, it requires you to commit to the process of listening to whatever you're going to play, versus if I can just do you know, on my phone. You're having a relationship with it now, and especially if it's a record. The one thing that's hard, because vinyl, the value in vinyl has gone up, but you can still find cheap vinyl somewhere, some places if you dig hard. But the experience of hunting, choosing an album that you know nothing about, but you like the artwork on it, and taking that back home and taking that out and looking at it, and for the first time, what is this? That's what is lost, but it's coming back though, and it's coming back. I would say like DIY PC building, to me, the golden era of DIY PC building was like late 90s, early 2000s, when you could get, you get into AMD processor, and you could, the Mnpc, you could order all the stuff over the phone that you wanted to build your own PC. That was like the golden era. To me, it was early 2000s. Was everyone's just like, I want to build a PC. What do I do? Is excited. There's all these computer magazines, all this stuff, and that went away. But analog audio has that same feeling of excitement and passion as a hobby today, and where it's not just about the vinyl, it's about like the components that you choose. What type of speakers should I get? What size power amplifier or receiver? What brand should I get? It's that same kind of thing that we went through with building PCs. Like, why should I get this brand? Why should I go Intel over AMD? No, let's weigh the differences. Why should I get this Antec case over this Cooler Master case? It's the same thing they're going through today of like picking out all this stuff so they can sit down when it's done and fit and have an experience with it. So that's what I love about the analog audio right now, is that it's just, there's all this just enthusiasm, not only just the equipment, but the music. Like, we're talking about music, you know, like it's this just massive catalog escape vessel you can travel on, and just, that's what's great about it, you know. And it's never going to go away. It will never go away. And people are always, especially with quarantine, people are just sitting and listening to music.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know.
Oh, definitely.
It's been awesome. I mean, I hate to say that about quarantine, but it's done a reset to our culture to make us stop and sit down and do something other than just engaging with our phone and the internet, you know, and social media.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. It's in a lot of ways, it's helped our culture recover some of the lost bits that we've shed over the past few decades. I mean, I like you said, music and computers. I mean, it's everything. Videos. I mean, movies are making a bigger comeback than they've ever done. They said that Wonder Woman, they did a split on its release, the new Wonder Woman, where they did part of it in the box office, like they do at all the major releases. But they also did, I think it was HBO or something like that, special where it was released to where you could view it if you had the right streamer. And they said it's one of the most popular releases that they've ever seen. So they're going to rush into the next one and do it as well. And so they're trying to get into the next video because it was such a big hit. We're seeing a new, what's the word? Like a refresh of the older stuff coming back, and it's coming back stronger than it ever was, you know, in some ways. So
but I do think too, when the vaccines finally reach everybody, that we're going to do it, our culture is going to experience like what the Roaring '20s was, where people are just going to they're going to go out and they're going to party, and they're going to support live bands. There's going to be so many bands raring to get out and play in clubs and venues and concerts, that there's going to be this massive celebration and people just going out and just being just massive events and gatherings and stuff. I mean, I hope, I mean, you know,
no,
if maybe not this, maybe if not, maybe this, I say this fall, maybe, I mean, the year after. I mean, I hope. That's all.
it would definitely be nice if it's in the near future, because it's one of those things that being isolated is great for keeping yourself healthy from things like COVID, but it hurts you emotionally. It has a lot of impact on your emotional state, being withdrawn from other people. It's a part of who we are as a race. Humans are a community oriented being. And so we have digital communities like Discord and Twitter and Facebook, but that doesn't give you the same contact and the same emotional boosts that being able to interact with people live does. So
that's right. That's
so
right.
I personally am hoping that it does end soon, whether it's a vaccine or just they go, you know, we can't stop it, so it's going to happen. So here it is. But one way or another, I'm looking forward to it being done so that we can interact with people again and have that feeling of real community as opposed to digital community. Not to say that digital community isn't great in its own way. It's just that emotionally it is different, and there is a difference with physical live community versus digital. So
absolutely, man. Yeah, it means a lot more when somebody actually gets in their car to go somewhere and meet and talk with somebody versus just over their phone. You know, there's a much more genuine sincerity to it, and you know that we need.
Well, I live in a small town. I mean, our total population, including the surrounding area, is less than 50,000 for sure. And I want to say it's less than 30,000. So it's a tiny area compared to a lot of other places. And the next larger city nearby is about 45-minute drive. And on Facebook, I try and keep up on deals as often as I can because I do computer stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this post that this guy made in one of the Facebook posts for the Facebook Marketplace stuff. And then there's a comment in it from his wife. And just to prep you there, he's $1 is the headline. Hugs for $1.
Hugs for $1.
And he's like, you know, in this time, you know, we need more. So if you want a hug, you know, wear a mask.
Put your mask on. Bring a mask.
He said, wear a mask, and for $1, I'll give you a hug. And his wife goes, how much would it be for a kiss? And I'm like, I wonder if he okayed that with his wife before posting it.
Oh, really? Wow.
So, the things that go on these days are totally different. But then again, I also live, and I'm not going to say one way or the other on it because my personal feelings are my personal feelings. But I live in an area where they have a strong community feeling that COVID is a hoax.
Yes.
And it seems to be a popular train of thought. And my wife got COVID, so I know that it is an illness. And I'm not going to say anything beyond that as far as that goes. But I'm also in a high risk category health-wise because I'm disabled. I've got diabetes. I've got physical disabilities.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm high risk for catching it.
Oh.
And so for me, when I see people go, "Oh, I'm not going to wear a mask because you know it's a hoax." At one level, I feel, you know, it's your right to feel the way you feel. But at the other end, I'm like, dude, this is my health, not just yours.
That's right. I wear a mask. When I go out and wear a mask, I'm doing it for others.
Exactly.
I'm doing it for courtesy to them. Yeah, I mean, we go out on a huge rabbit hole of COVID. Yeah, it's very real. You know, being in Minnesota, within a half hour, I'm in country, you know, it's rural here. And so it's like crossing into the Trump border, you know? But yeah, I totally get it, you know, but we'll get through it, you know, once the vaccines get out and people, you know, they're doing everyone in the medical world is getting them first. And then like, people, older people are getting them. We'll get there, you know, hopefully. I would imagine that because of your profile that you would be a candidate to get the vaccine.
I'm hoping. My worry is that now they've found additional strains of it that are not impacted by it. So it becomes more, I'm in between the two locations that they found these new strains in. They found them in California and they found them in Colorado, and I'm in Utah. And so it's like, is it really going to help me one way or the other? Because now they first documented at least one of these new strains over in the UK. So it's not like it's just here even, it's worldwide now. This other strain can still infect you even if you have the vaccine. So it's kind of like the flu, you know, if it's this version of the flu, you're good. But if it's this one, it's nice knowing you.
Right.
So before I got diabetes and before I physically became disabled, I contacted swine flu back when that was the big thing, and it was painful. But I survived and I lived through it, and I know that other people died from it, like they are from COVID, and so I know. And my wife had COVID; she survived, so I know that you can survive it, but do you want to go through it? No. Just wear a mask, you know?
Right. It's that easy.
Exactly. Yeah. So anyway, that's my rant about that. But
no, that's fine, man.
So I did have one more question for you real quick. If there was one more item or build that you would want on a personal level for yourself to do as an accomplishment? What is it? Like you had mentioned the Mad Max one. Is that the big one, or is there something else that?
No, there's just thinking about this. I have a good friend that's a modder as well. Good friend. His name is EO Ambience. There's a poster in here, one of his builds. But he's a longtime friend, modder, very talented modder, and him and I, the original Alien movie fan. We're the original with Sigourney Weaver and you know the first movie, and we had an opportunity. We're going to combine our efforts to do for Isolation, the game. It was Isolation by Sega, I believe. Alien Isolation came out, like, pretty sure it was Isolation was the game, based on that movie. And we were going to do a build. We're going to work with Maximum PC Magazine. They were going to finance it and stuff, but something happened where the person at the magazine ended up changing positions, and they never followed up on it. And so we had planned this build that was, oh, this is totally coming back to me now. It was badass. It was going to be a xenomorph, like a crate to transport the xenomorph. If you had captured like the xenomorph early on, when it was still in its early stage, when it was a chest burster, and it was still at that stage, we were creating this transport case to transport this thing, to capture it live and then be able to transport inside this box that would be it, and it would reflect the world of the Nostromo ship. They'd have like the recessed panels and be like white and gray, and kind of like almost like a medical transport kind of thing, like let's say in the whatever the room where the doctor was, it'd be the official equipment from the Nostromo ship that you would transport the xenomorph in. And we had done the design, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna take two full tower cases, these large full tower cases, and I actually did mods, early stages of the mods on them, joined them together, these two towers together, so we'd have this huge cube, and then we would build around this, and we were going to have I've still got them somewhere, these large acrylic cylinders, and we're going to have liquid in there, just like reflective of the Aliens movie, where you're in the laboratory and you see the xenomorphs that they did tests on, and they're still in these large bubbling containers. Yeah. And we're going to have something like that in there too, like with water in it. And we did all this, and then they just kind of I don't know, she stopped responding to us, and then we ended up getting distracted for other work. But that's what it would be. It would be, if I could work with him and do something, an alien theme, proper alien theme build that the fans would love, that we would go into that world where we go watch the movie, dissect things like in the cockpit of the ship, and like elements of like the screen and the buttons and the switches, and right down to the graphics of everything, and use all that stuff. We would be that detailed and authentic to grab actual visual cues from the movie, so as a fan you could see this stuff, and it would be like, Wayland. It would be it'd be manufactured by Wayland and all that stuff. So yeah, I'd like to do that if we ever got the chance again.
That would be awesome. The Alien series is one of my favorites too. My wife often jokes when somebody talks about like dream celebrities and stuff like that. My wife will chime in, "Oh, he'd love his crush is Sigourney Weaver."
Yeah,
I'm like, back in the day, yeah.
I love her. I love her. I mean, I love a strong woman character, which that's what really made that movie so awesome for people, is that, And other than Jamie Lee Curtis in the original Halloween, she was also a strong woman character too. But yeah, awesome.
One of the originals. One of the original strong women.
And you need to see, reminds me, you know who Neil Blomkamp is? Director Neil Blomkamp. He did the District 9 movie.
Okay, I think I've seen District 9, but I wasn't aware of his name. So
he did like a series, I think it was like a District 9 like origin story or something, and he had Sigourney in the series. Like it was like a web series. And I don't remember the name of it, but yeah, I mean, she's great.
Yeah.
You know, it's awesome. You know, and in fact, somebody on Twitter the other day had used a meme of her doing something, and I said, and she was all dressed up in like a corporate outfit, you know, like at an office desk, and he had sent that as a response to something I posted, and I said, oh, it's Sigourney in like a business suit. Wow, that's crazy. And he goes, oh yeah, I need to watch Alien. And I go, yeah, this weekend you need to watch Alien.
Right?
Jeez, you're using a meme of her and you don't even know like her origin. Where she, you know?
Oh, no. I mean, I've seen her do. She's a very versatile actress. I mean,
yeah,
she's done things from the political style where she's wearing a business suit, all the way to the sci-fi genre to you know, good guys, bad guys. She does it all, and one of the greats in my opinion. So it's sad to see so many of our generation and our previous generation's greats passing away nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems that like the 60s, when they reach their mid 60s, that's where a lot of like, you know, musicians have passed away, you know, and that's scary to me, the mid 60s.
Yeah. I mean,
know?
I'm not far behind you on that one. So I look at it and I'm like, you know, these guys aren't that old and they're passing away. And
I know.
So, some of them are hitting, you know, 80s, 90s. I mean, Dick Van Dyke, I'm probably going to get censored for that, but you know, he's great, you know, and I've seen him in stuff from Diagnosis Murder to Mary Poppins, you know, and he's getting up there in age, and it hurts when you think, you know, how much longer do these people have that they're not going to be able to grace our screens anymore, because really what it comes down to is today's actors and actresses, they aren't anything compared to the ones that I grew up with, in my opinion. I mean, there are a few here and there that are good or even great, but on a general level, there just aren't that many that compare, in my opinion.
Have you seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Not Hollywood. We've seen Once Upon a Time, but I don't think we've seen Hollywood.
All right, you familiar with Quentin Tarantino movies? Are you a fan?
Some,
okay.
Yeah.
Check out Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It came out, I think it was 2 years ago now. It's got Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio in it.
Okay.
And they make a great combination. And it takes place in late 60s in Hollywood. And it's a great movie. It's like one of the best movies I've seen in the last couple of years. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. The way it's shot, it will give you hope that the future is still looking good for movies, for just good movies with the actors that we have with us today still.
All right, that's good. I mean, like I said, I do see some greats in the newer generation, but I haven't seen the ones that inspire me as much as some of the older generation that's from our childhood, you know. But I'll look into that one and see if I can find it and watch it. So, but just so you know, you got to keep me up to date on the Alien build and the Mad Max build. I want to know.
I will, man. If they get resurrected or opportunity comes, for sure, I'll definitely I'll tag you, I'll alert you. And those would be something that will be documented. So there'll be like a landing page on my site that I'll document all the stages on. Yeah, for sure, man.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking your time today to talk to me about this stuff and to share everything. It'll probably be about a month before I get this edited and posted. And I'm sure there'll be a little bit of quality difference because of the way that the camera angles are and everything. But I'm definitely going to get this posted in the next like couple weeks to a month. So
my video did correct. It is correct, right?
yes,
It's not,
yes, I'm not saying like this.
that would have been terrible. Like,
I was worried for a minute there. I was like, I don't see a rotate button.
I know. Yeah, luckily, you know, and I'm sure it's the phone. It's the phone app that was doing it. You know. Yeah.
Well, they're supposed to auto rotate, and sometimes you just gotta turn it a couple of times to get it, and so.
Yeah, you know, that's one of the biggest travesties of video is that how social media has taken like the vertical profile mode as a priority over landscape, you know, and I understand that because our phones are generally a narrow screen, and I totally get that, but it's like, who would have ever seen that coming? You know, no one had ever predicted that.
Yeah, I mean, but then I guess it's also the way that the angle of the lens is, that when you rotate it a certain way, it can only go through this point of view. And so,
yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I mean, years ago, I would have thought it would have stayed the other way, but it's different now. So, but you got to use the technology that they give you nowadays.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You have to, if you don't adapt, you fall behind. I know that for sure.
So thank you so much for your time.
All right, bud.
I hope you have a good week, and hopefully those projects turn out really well for you. So
likewise, Brian, take care.
See ya.
Yeah.
So everyone, I hope that you all enjoyed this video. This was Bill Owen from MNPCTech. If you haven't already, I'll put a link to his Twitter down below. If you haven't already, check him out. So thank you for watching, everyone. I hope that you all enjoyed this video and that it was entertaining and enjoyable for you. If you did, make sure you hit the like button down below. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. That should be, I believe it's going to be over here now. But go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you can keep up to date on our new videos and our community section. And then, as always, if you have any questions for myself or about the content, make sure you leave them down below in the comments section, and I will try my best to get any answers from Bill for questions that are, you know, geared towards him instead of me. So thank you for watching, everyone. Have a great day. Bye for now.